Onboard measurement system activated by round 2. Next set, we're in fuel drain.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah, that's all like fortunate.
3 minutes and counting. The ground propellant feed has been terminated, and the booster tank is now being pressurized for flight. This optimizes the flow of fuel and helps add structural support to the rocket. Minutes, 30 seconds. Another 2 minutes and counting. Minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. The International Space Station now passing high above Kazakhstan, right over the Baikonur Cosmodrome. These two vehicles are about to play a 6-hour catch-up game with each other. Minus 1 minute. Yes. Is now in full power. We have all the sequence start. Minus 45 seconds. The ground and vehicle is beginning to swing back. T-minus 30 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds and counting. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
Right now.
And the Soyuz is now on its way with Mike Hawkins, Oleg Kozov, and Sergei Rosansky on a 6-hour ride to the International Space Station.
Everything is fine on board.
The first stage performance, the Soyuz delivering 102 tons of thrust from its 4 boosters and single engine. The first stage of the Soyuz measures 68 feet in length and 24 feet in diameter. It is currently burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the flight.
Seconds, nominal flight.
70 seconds into the flight, velocity is now 1,100 miles an hour.
Nine, 90 seconds. Stable conditions. Inaudible.
The 4 strap-on boosters have now been jettisoned. These have completed their job and have dropped away at an altitude of 30 statute miles. The Soyuz is now traveling at 3,937 miles an hour.
Seconds. Hold nominal. Launch 16, launch charges.
The launch route has now been jettisoned. The rocket's altitude is now 52 miles high.
Confirming launch charges. Activate. Confirming.
Look at my comments there. The right seat of the Soyuz. And we're going according to plan.
Vibration, oscillation, within north. Nominal operation of the system.
The Soyuz core stage is performing as expected. The core stage of the vehicle is 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter. With a single engine, 4 fuel chambers providing 96 tons of thrust for 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. The stage will continue to burn until the 4 minute 43 second mark. So you use what we call a hot stage technique. The third stage will ignite while the second stage is still burning. So you guys have an area and the second stage.
Okay, so at this point, the crew is still attached to the long part of the rocket, but the 4 like carrot-shaped things on the outside, you probably saw those come off. You can see the light on them for just a second as they fell away. They are now outside of the shroud, so if it's daylight outside, they can see out those windows to the sides. They have 2 cameras on board that they can switch back and forth, so you can see either one with just the left crew member in the center or the right crew member in the center. And they do that on board with their little stick there. They have a little stick called a nukaska, and they can make changes on the displays and stuff with that little stick. You can see that little metal rod that the commander uses once in a while. So now the Soyuz is just on it's in the open vacuum of space, and that shroud, like I said, is gone. And then in just a minute they'll get staging for a 3rd stage that'll take them all the way to orbital velocity. So as the staging happens, it looks like the video is not real consistent here. But when the staging happens, it goes from like a lot of G's to the G's just falling off. They fall off pretty rapidly, and then there's a big boom because it actually separates, it kind of blows apart the rocket in the third stage. The third stage rocket actually kind of starts up. I don't know if you remember seeing it on the pad, but there's like a little bit of a cage, some struts between the first and second stage where the engines are, and allows those engines to start up while those pieces are still attached. So they get started, and then pyrotechnics blow them apart. And then that third stage lights up, and again, as it gets lighter and lighter and lighter, the G's get higher and higher and higher until they get all the way up to just a couple G's again. And then right at main engine cutoff, there's the engine shuts down and it blows apart, and you're just at 0 G, and then they'll be at 0 G again all the way until they come home, and about 6 months from now. So they stay at this high G during the ascent, they get more G's, and then 0 G, and then they'll stay there for the rest of their 6-month tour.
Maximum G force is, you said 4 Gs?
Maximum G's is just about 4 on the Soyuz. Right. On the shuttle, it was a little less. It was about 3. We actually throttled the main engines to keep the G's right at 3.
Is that the difference between a liquid fuel and a solid fuel?
I don't know if it's really related to the type of fuel so much as just the profile that's chosen and the way the structure is built. So the tube construction allows you to go at a little higher G without having to worry so much, and also the seat design, the spacecraft design probably.
Is there a difference in time between it takes for the shuttle order to get into low Earth orbit as opposed to the Soyuz? What is the time difference?
That's a great question. In both cases, we used just under 9 minutes to get there. So, in both profiles, they're almost identical. So it's just as a result of kind of the, using the 3G ascent profile and just the way the structure is built, and the rocket technology really just makes it take just about that long to get to the orbital velocity. So 17,005. Oh, there's the bump.
You got their attention.
So a question is why 6 months? And I don't know. We would like to fly I'd like to fly like 3-month increments, and stay a little shorter. But it really comes from how fast they can manufacture Soyuz spacecraft, is my best understanding. That's just about what they have the capacity to build at that rate, just about 1 every 3 months. Yes, sir. Okay, so this young man knows a lot about rocket science. So he was talking about gimbaling to steer the rocket. On the space shuttle, when we fly up and the thrust is coming out the back end, it's completely balanced by gimbaling the engine exhaust, moving it left, right, forward, and back to kind of balance. It's like balancing a broom on your hand, if you will. And that's the way the steering is done to get it all the way into space. On the Soyuz, the back end of the Soyuz spacecraft, actually, there are main engines that don't move, and then there are little ones that they call verniers that do. So the Soyuz is a subtly different steering mechanism. It uses little engines to move the back end around to point the rocket into space. But his real question was, then once we're off the rocket, what do we use? And the answer is, we have little thrusters around the nose area, around the tail area, that can make us move in any direction, pitch up and down, yaw left and right, and roll around too. And those little rockets just provide little bitty bursts and impulses that allow you to get the attitude you want. And then we have one big engine that we can use to point either the direction we're going if we want to go higher, or the opposite the direction we're going if we want to slow down and go lower. We use that big engine to change our speed. So that's the answer to that. I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, come see me afterwards. Want to try again? Okay, why didn't we hear a sonic boom? So this rocket was going downstream. If you had been, as going away from the crowd, and so it leaves the launch pad and it goes out, and by the time it gets supersonic, it starts creating a shock wave because it's going supersonic. But it doesn't do it very long because it's going up and out of the atmosphere. So the sonic boom is something that's happening in the air. And about the time this guy gets supersonic, it's going up. It does make a boom, but only, you wouldn't get to hear it at the launch pad, unfortunately, because it would be downrange. Now, the things that come back down, sometimes some of these rocket boosters fall back to Earth and they're supersonic. The people that are around them, that when they fall down, they can hear the sonic booms from them. So, but we just didn't get to hear it because of the sound source was from the launch pad today.
I'll get you.
Back to the time spent there. Even if Soyuz was able to build the crafts more rapidly, wouldn't it be less cost effective to do it that way? I mean, isn't the 6-month increment much more cost effective?
So is the 6 thing, yes. I mean, the longer you leave them up there, the fewer vehicles you would have to use for transportation to and from. And that is a big expense, actually, the cost to build these Soyuz, because they're, for the most part, almost none of it gets reused. Some parts of the seats and the instrument panel and the descent module itself. But otherwise, you have to build a new spacecraft for each flight. So kind of the longer, the better. But you know, as astronauts, we would argue, well, you know, don't make us stay 5 years. So there is some kind of a happy medium, and it was decided to be around 6 months. That's just about where you're just about ready to go. Hey, it's time for me to get back to the planet. So.
If the 3D printing of rockets that NASA is currently testing decreases the cost of rocket production, would that increase the time you might be able to launch it?
Would it increase the time?
Yeah, the frequency. Like currently it's 6 months. If production costs are lower, would that increase the frequency?
Absolutely. I mean, anything you can do to bring production costs down, yeah, that would make a good argument for flying more often. So, you know, how productive you are after a certain amount of time. Actually, there's kind of a ramp up when you get there as an astronaut. After about 2 weeks, you start to get a little bit more productive. But then, you know, towards the end, after 6 months, you're probably starting to get less productive again. So there's some kind of optimum, but yeah, anything you can do to decrease production costs, we'll take that in the space program, because that's one of our really, really big battles.
If that's orbit rendezvous, what does it actually do? I know there's a series of burns. Does it come up like from a faster lower orbit and slow and lift, or like how does that actually work?
Okay, so he was asking about the details about, we used to orbit in 2 days. We used to orbit for 2 days and take the whole time to catch up to the station, and now we're doing it in four orbits, about 6 hours. And the only way we can do that is that we launch with what we call a small phase angle. In other words, when you leave the launch pad, that space station needs to be somewhere out in front of you. It can't be on the other side of the Earth. With the 50-hour rendezvous, it can be anywhere around the planet. And you can stay at a nice lower altitude, and over the course of 50 hours, no problem catching up to anywhere around the planet. But if you want to do this 4-orbit rendezvous, you have to have a pretty small phase angle, small enough so that you can catch up in these 4 orbits. The way you catch up is if you're in an orbit that's lower, then your orbit is, it's one of the laws of Kepler, it's an orbital mechanics law, but you have to be flying faster. And so you have pretty high closure on the space station. And the way you do it in exactly 4 orbits is with a lot of calculus and really smart people and computers. They can figure out exactly when to raise the orbital altitudes at what point, so that you get to a certain pre-rendezvous point at about 3.5 orbits later, and you close right up on the 4th orbit. So it's really done with a lot of calculus and flying these steps up in altitude to decrease your closure over the course of the 6 hours.
So then you can drift backward into the station relatively?
You could drift back into it. I mean, if you go above station altitude, you'll fall back, but usually you're behind it and you close up to it. So the rendezvous, at the end, you actually go out in front of the station just a little bit on a Soyuz rendezvous. But it is rocket science. It is the rendezvous is super complicated and a lot of calculus done. A lot of it's done backwards. So you need to be a mathematician to get there.
Do you want to take tomorrow or what?
All right, was that a gorgeous launch or what? All right, well, thank you very much to Mike and to Kevin for all of the words that they shared. And I think they're going to stick around for just a little bit longer. If you want to ask some more questions, they're going to stick around for just a little bit longer. But I do have one more guest that I'd like to introduce to you. This is my boss, so tell him that I did a good job today. This is Mr. Mike Kincaid. He is the Director of External Relations here at the Johnson Space Center. He's going to have a few words for you, and then when he is done, I do have some nice little surprises for you. I have one each, a pin and a patch for each person. So when we're all done, they'll be
So as Lisa mentioned, I'm Mike Kincaid, the Director of External Relations. I want to say thank you on behalf of our Center Director, Ellen Ochoa, who can't be here. She normally would be here, and the reason she's not here is because she's in Kazakhstan. And you guys got the lucky end of the deal. It's a lot colder there, even this time of year, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning instead of 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't know about you, but I had a chance to see a launch in person in 2009. It was an amazing experience, and you have a connection to that launch that's different than anything else. So I'm going to ask you to do us a favor as kind of a thank you possibly back to NASA. I'm going to ask you guys to go back to your homes, go on Facebook or Pinterest or wherever. Lisa told you about a couple things. She's going to give you a patch and a pin. She'll also give you a poster. Post this in a prominent location when someone says, hey, why do you have that poster? You can say, guess what? I got to go to Johnson Space Center here from Kevin Ford, who flew on board International Space Station. He talked about what it was like, and you can help us tell our story. Yes. Each of the last couple of astronauts, we've been looking at a special angle, and so Mike Hopkins, who just went launch today, he's doing something, as Kevin mentioned, he was played football for the University of Illinois, and so you can train like Mike or train like an astronaut. If you follow him on Facebook, Train Like an Astronaut, there's a sheet of paper up there that will find you the page. You can find out what's going on, what he's doing. If you have a friend or a kid or a grandkid or a nephew that would like to train like Mike, we would love for you to follow him. And then Karen Nyberg, who's been up there for a few months already, she's the mom of a small child, and so you can follow her on Pinterest. And maybe you saw her washing her hair in space and got all kinds of media attention. And so again, we want you to go back and help people understand that there really are people in space today. I know that you will run across. I wish that this next fact was not true, but I know that you will run across at least 1 or 2 people in the next 24 hours who will say, really? There's people in space? And you tell them, yes, there have been, and the International Space Station will celebrate its 15th anniversary in November. So now we've had continuous presence for about 12 or 13 of those years. The last shameless plug I will put in while you're here, there's something we have called the JSC Director's E-News. So you can do a search, JSC Director E-News. Ellen Ochoa, who again wishes she could be here, about once a month she sends out a 500 words or less, so that it does not take a lot of your inbox. It's kind of a, hey, this is the stuff you should know about in your nation's space program. And so she'll send it out to you. I promise we will not, we don't give your address away to advertisers. It's just her. You get it out once a month. For that, I just want to say thanks again to Kevin and Mike for answering questions. And if I'm not quite certain how this bus operations works, I know, as she said, Kevin's a great spokesperson, and he can still remember what it was like on space station since he's only been back 10 months maybe or so. So it's great having him here to talk about his personal experience. Thanks again.
Okay, I know you all want to stay here all day and most of the night. Probably not a really good idea because we will run out of coffee, water, and juice that's still in the back. As I mentioned before, I do have a patch and a pin. It's actually a sticker and a pin. There should be one for everybody. Hopefully there's one for everybody and I counted correctly. When you are ready to leave, Jenny, wave to us, Jenny. Jenny will escort you back downstairs and to the bus and make sure you get reunited with the vehicle that you came in. Thank you so very much.
They want to. Okay. They do want to go to building.
Is that yours? Yeah. Don't forget it. No, never do. I'll put the video up tonight. Oh, are they both yours? No.
You have time. I got your patch and pin. I'm going to take you where they're to train the astronauts.
Okay.